Bhagavad Gita is a book of mankind's collected experience of and answers to life's most basic questions. Who I am, from where do I come, what is my purpose and destiny, and most practically, how do I find happiness? These podcasts originate in the lectures of Neil Bhatt, a disciple of Swami Chinmayananda. They are presented here in 20 to 30-minute segments, each covering 3 of the Gita's 701 verses. Welcome to Gita Wisdom for Daily Living.
We had been discussing chapter 4, Gnana Karma Sannyas Yoga. Yoga of renunciation of action in knowledge. We have seen so far that in chapter 3, Bhagwan has taught Arjuna Karma Yoga. In that he said that you should perform actions for yagna, yagnarthat kuru karmani. Then he also said, asaktaha satatam karma samacharaha. Perform all your actions without attachment. And he said, yogastha guru karmani. Establish yourself in yoga and they perform your actions. So these are the 3 requisites or 3 paths, 3 ways of performing actions Bhagwan has indicated to Arjuna. He called it Karma Yoga. How you can continue performing your actions in this world as required by roles you have taken. This art of performing action called Karma Yoga, Bhagwan said, was taught to the royal sages, the philosopher king, right from the beginning. Right from the beginning of the creation, this knowledge was given to Lord's Son, who is considered to be, in this case, the original ruler of this universe. I gave it to him. He then gave it to his successor. His successor gave it to his successor. And this knowledge was passed on from one royal sage to the another. One philosopher king to another philosopher king. The kings were not just simply the rulers, but they were also established in dharma. They were established in the knowledge. But this knowledge was lost over a period of time, and therefore I have given it to you again today. And you shall also be able to use it. But then Arjuna asked, how can that be possible? Because you are my contemporary. How you could give this knowledge to Lord's Son? And in that response, we have learned how the reincarnation works. So Bhagwan said, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacha Arjuna. Oh Arjuna, you and I have gone through many janmas, many iterations of our existence. The only difference he has said that I know them all and you do not know any. That's because you take birth. I as a jiva take birth compelled by my own vasanas, my unfulfilled desires. I take a new instrument to fulfill my vasanas which I have not fulfilled yet. If I have no vasanas, no desires, there is no reason for me to take birth. In other words, there is no action required if there is no desire. I don't need to buy a car if I'm never going to travel. Buy car. So people in New York City, most of them don't buy car because they are not going to use car. It's not economical for them to buy car. They don't need that equipment. People like us, we need that equipment because there is only way we can travel from one place to another. We have a desire to travel. The equipment needed is a car. Therefore, I'll buy a car. But once in the same way, you are driven by your own vasanas to take another birth. But in my case, there is no need for me, but I take birth by my own free will because I have a desire. And that is what Bhagwan has basically said. Why he takes that divine birth. He said, Yada yada hi dharmasya gnanir bhavati. Bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tad atmanam srujamiham. The desire may be noble, it may be good or bad, but unless there is desire, there cannot be any action. So in Bhagwan's part also, from the Ishvara's point of view, also, he has a desire to set the creation right. When he sees that the dharma is declining in his own creation, as we have seen in Vedantic discussions, that Bhagwan creates this universe out of his own self. The creator As the efficient cause knows how to create, he also knows how to maintain it. But the material he used to create this universe is his own self. He has created this universe out of his own self, so he is all pervading in this universe, and he has created this universe out of his own will, Maya. When he sees that his own creation, there is a decay of dharma. Dharma, we have seen in several discussions before, is the law of being. That which makes a thing or a being what it is its dharma. If that dharma is declining, a thing or a being is not functioning as it should be, then it needs to be corrected. So here Bhagavan said, when in the society, just as an individual has a dharma, the society also has a dharma. Human beings have their own dharma. At the basic core level, a human being is a rational animal. He is differentiated from all other animals as he has reasoning power. So he can act rationally. He can think rationally. If human beings stop acting rationally, then dharma is decayed. If they start acting irrationally, I believe dharma is decayed for human beings, for that society. So in current condition, the dharma of democracy is that everyone has the right to vote or right to give opinion. When that dharma is violated, then democracy is decayed, then somebody has to come and correct it. So in this case, Bhagavan said, whenever there is a decay of dharma, when I see that things are not performing as per dharma, then it has to be replaced, corrected, and the order should be restored. So, to give you an example from my own observation, a dharma of a steel beam under a bridge is to provide the tensile strength to that bridge, because that beam can bend and come back to its own position. That's the dharma of a steel. When the steel is corroded, it's still steel, but it's corroded steel. That steel does not have the tensile strength which was required by that beam, and therefore it needs to be either repaired or replaced. So in that case, whoever is the owner of that bridge, responsible for that bridge, he may be paying no attention to that beam, but now that he has observed the decay and there's a danger of bridge to collapse, well, he has to manifest himself as the corrector for that steel beam. So he said, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati. Whenever dharma has decayed, that things or beings are not acting according to their own dharma. Abhyuthanam adharmasya. And the rise of adharma which is contrary to his own dharma. Human beings are supposed to be rational. If they are not acting rationally, they are no different than any other animals. Society has to be just. If the society is not just, obviously it is not a society. It's a chaos. If there is a chaos in the society, whoever is responsible for that society has to restore the order in the society. It becomes a just society again. Bhagavan said, that is my desire. When I take birth by my free will, so we have seen that we are under the spell of Maya, therefore we are deluded by ignorance. Ignorance is veiling my own self. I do not see who I am. I continue to change my vehicle from this body to another. But that's driven by my vasanas. For Ishvara, he is in control of Maya. The whole creation is created by his own Maya, out of his own self. When he sees this creation is not performing as per his design, he has the desire to set it right. Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha duskritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Time and again, I manifest myself as one of my own creation and then set the order correct so that the things which are working as per dharma are protected and those which are not acting according to dharma, they either to be corrected, rehabilitated or replaced. So in this same example of my steel beam under a bridge, there are several steel beams under that bridge. Those are providing the tensile strength to that bridge. But one is corroded, well, people don't pay much attention. corroded beams we see all the time. When we see extensive corrosion under that bridge, then whoever is in charge of that, if we need to do something, well, let's figure out which beams we can restore and which we have to replace. So that the overall strength of that bridge, by the collective strength of all the steel beams, is restored back to where it should have been. Dharma sansthapanarthaya. For society to function as it was supposed to have functioned, as the just society, then I have to come and restore order. Remove those who are poisonous, who cannot be rehabilitated. Rehabilitate those who can be rehabilitated, so that those who are practicing dharma are protected and society functions as it's supposed to have functioned before the decay started. In verse 9, he says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma na eti mameti sah Arjuna. Here is another method Bhagavan gives us to achieve that state of knowledge. That right now I am under the spell of Maya and my knowledge is veiled by my ignorance. And there are several other methods we have seen. Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga. He said that Karma Yoga, you can perform your actions as we have discussed, or you can just observe a divine person acting in this world selflessly, and then recognizing how he does it in his divine manifestation, and then finding the same divinity within you. You will establish yourself in your own self, in your own real self, which is your own Atma, your own consciousness. As we have discussed that there is nothing in this world which is not manifestation of Bhagavan, manifestation of Brahman. And therefore, you and I cannot be different from Avatara. So in our culture, we have this Dashavatara. But actually, that's just the popular version of it. There are Puranas have 24 Avataras, some have 36 Avataras. Numerous descriptions of Avatara, because Avatara means the one that descend is Avatar. Avatarati iti Avatara. You and I also have descended from our highest position of all-knowing self to very limited knowing self. From these limitations, I want liberation. And Bhagavan said, even by observing others, so we create role models in our life. From them we learn. And if I can create the highest role model, which has demonstrated how a person established in his own self acts in this world, Bhagavan said, you can also get liberated just by recognizing how a divine incarnation functions. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tattvata. One who knows in essence what is the purpose of a divine avatara and how that divine being functions in this world. Therefore we learn Ramayana. Therefore we recite Bhagavad Gita. We are trying to learn from them how Lord Rama acted in his life. If we can understand that, Bhagavan said, Tyaktva deham punarjanma na iti mameti sah Arjuna. Then when you give up this body, if I understood in my life how Rama has functioned in his life, what was his motivation to act the way he acted? What was Krishna's motivation to act the way he acted? Then I will also find that same self in me by my own contemplation, my own observation of my own self, that this is not me. The demands of my body, my mind, intellect are not really me. I am something other than that. Having understood this, by learning from my own role models, when I give up this body, I don't have to take the birth again. So Swamiji explains here that in previous descriptions in scriptures, the idea was deathlessness. But in the later portion of our scriptures, the birthlessness is described. then death is obviously something to be afraid of. Therefore, don't get infected by coronavirus, have social distancing, all of that. But death is the one thing you are worried about. But somehow we're going to die anyway, if coronavirus or no coronavirus. But the very thought that I have to start all over again. I have come all this far from going through learning from ABCD to whatever went through KG, then high school, then college. I have to start all over again. That very thought should be very frightening. To go through what I have gone through in my life all over again. So Bhagavan said, that fear also will go away because Punarjanma na iti. There will not be any birth again for you. Mam iti saha Arjuna. You will become just as me. Only difference between you and I right now is you do not know who you are in your real self. I know who I am in my real self. Therefore, I am in control of my own Maya. You are under the spell of Maya. Once you have recognized who you are, there is no difference between you and I. You will also be able to say that I taught this knowledge to Lord's Son. Because there is no difference between you and I. You are nothing but me. You are just not recognizing it. So, Mam iti saha Arjuna. You will become me when you recognize this fact. Vita raga bhaya krodhaha. How one can achieve that state where he becomes as knowledgeable as Krishna or Rama. He said, Vita raga bhaya krodhaha. One is free from attachment, fear and anger. We have seen fear and anger nothing but the byproducts of attachment. One who can give up attachment, then he obviously will become free of bhaya and krodha as well. One who has become free from these three, manmaya mam upasritaha. You can only become free of this if you become one absorbed in me, means that self. Bhagavan said, me, your original self. When you become absorbed in your own self, identify with your own self, and taking refuge in your own self, mam upasritaha, bahavo gnana tapasaha puta madbhavam agataha. Many purified this fire of knowledge. This fire of knowledge, who I am in my real self. That which is something different than this body, mind and intellect. What is it and who is that? Once I come to the conclusion that that's my own consciousness. I am pure consciousness when not associated with body, mind and intellect. He said that fire of knowledge, when purifies your understanding, madbhavam agataha, they become just as me. They become one with my own self. So Swamiji gives a long commentary on this verse, basically saying that this is Gnan Tapas. Gnan Tapas is reflecting on who you are, learning from others, learning from my role models, learning from scriptures, then contemplating on it, then come to the conclusion that this body cannot be me, this mind cannot be me, and the intellect cannot be me. It's all acquired from this Prakriti. I am something other than that. He said, you will become just as me. Swami also says this verse combines all three paths of karma, bhakti and gnana. So the first quarter of this verse, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha, is about karma yoga. By practicing karma yoga, I will become devoid of attachment and therefore of fear and anger. Then manmaya mam upasritaha, identifying with my divine self, that's the bhakti yoga. And then bahavo gnana tapasaha. Gnana tapasa is the gnana yoga. By reflecting on what is real and what is unreal. Separating real from unreal is gnana yoga. He said this combination of all three paths, depending on your own nature, will take you to your destination, your final goal. Your final goal is madbhavam agataha. You want to become as unlimited as God Himself. If you consider Krishna to be almighty, all-powerful God, I want to be just like Him. That's what we do. When we have a role model, so what you want to become is I want to become just like you. My colleague was talking to his boss, and his boss says, so Mark, what do you want to become? What do you want to achieve? He points at his boss's chair and says, I want to take that chair. I want to take your position because I admire you so much. I want you to get out of the chair and I want to take that chair. We're saying the same thing. Bhagavan, you are unlimited, you're almighty. That's what I want to be, so that I can have infinite happiness. We'll stop right here. If you find this podcast helpful, please support it by donating any amount by going to the episode's website at neilbhatt.podbean.com or at chinmayarichmond.org. Thank you. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.